Hello and welcome to this edition of You Can Get There From Here. I'm Dr. Joe Moore, Chair of the Department of Communication and Digital Media Production at the University of Central Missouri, and it's my pleasure every week to get to visit with some of our alumni. I talk to those who got their master's degrees here at UCM. I talk to some who got their bachelor's in digital media production, others who studied communication studies. We talk about how the program helped them get where they are and what they're up to today. Today, we're getting to visit with a special guest. Meet Vanessa Figg. Vanessa is a graduate from the master's program at UCM. We were talking before we came on the air that she came in as a non-traditional student. We love all kinds of students coming in. And Vanessa, we are glad that you studied with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm glad that we could get you on here. So let's start out like we always do. Tell us about your background and tell us what brought you from the Northeast up in the far reaches back down here to Warrensburg, Missouri. What brought you here?
It's a long story, but ultimately, my husband is from Missouri originally. I'm from the East Coast originally, and we met out here at a wedding, and so I relocated out here to be with him, and that's how I found myself to Warrensburg.
And then where to talk about back Northeast, you went to where you went to school and what your interests were that kind of got you into the communication program here at UCM.
Sure. Let's see. I went to the Tatnall School in Wilmington, Delaware. It's a small college prep school there, and um, really had a great education there. A lot of our teachers are actually PhDs, and so I found my love of writing there at Tatnall, growing up writing papers and those daunting 10-page papers in high school and all that. But it's just something that I just naturally enjoyed. I enjoy reading, literature, and I really like people. So under the communication and the people, all those things sort of started coming together for me at probably middle school, high school. And then I went to Villanova University in Philadelphia, Villanova, and got my undergraduate degree there for in communication with a minor in Spanish. And so really built on the foundation that I received at Tatnall, strengthened that at Villanova through communications and through internships and that kind of thing. I thought I kind of wanted to go into magazines and that kind of thing, and interned with a magazine, and it was really cool. But it was a little too slow paced for me and my personality. So when I graduated, I moved up to the New York City area, and have been in either communications or marketing departments since then. I was there about 5 years, worked in healthcare before we moved out here, and took the job actually in Warrensburg as the director of marketing and community relations at Western Missouri Medical Center, which is the hospital here in Warrensburg.
And so from there, you decided to go ahead and start working on the master's degree. I've got to go back. I loved how you said those daunting 10-page papers in high school. And then you get
Yes.
to grad school and you're like, 10 pages? How am I going to say all this in 10 pages?
Yes. Well, or I mean, for my master's, my paper at the end, that was pretty daunting. But I mean, wow, we're jumping ahead here, but the staff, the professors that I had supporting me just made it made me successful. So yeah, but the 10 pagers who, yeah,
Yeah.
jumping around is it's a challenge to be brief sometimes.
So what made you decide to go ahead and get that master's degree? What was the draw?
Okay, so there was two different things. One was, so I've been in the workforce at the hospital, so about over 10 years, but it was about 7 to 8 years myself running the program there. We rebranded the hospital. I helped build out the whole, communications, internal, external communications, and the marketing department from scratch. And I'm a lifelong learner. That's something that's extremely important to me. And I had a lot of as the director of marketing at the hospital, I had a lot of really great experiences with interns from UCM. So healthcare is you every penny you spend, you gotta earn. So I was fortunate enough to be able to build some relationships over at UCM, to have some really bright, excellent students come intern for me and literally work as part of my department. And frankly, I had a few students, interns, teach me a few things as it related to video and the social media technologies as that was emerging and that kind of thing. So I was like, wow, you know what? These kids are getting a really great education, and I'm kind of falling behind here. And I really appreciated the staff, the professors, and everybody that I talked to and ran into, and in the community living here. I was just really impressed. So I thought, you know what, for me to jump to any next level in my career, and to become the best professional that I can be, to give myself a competitive edge, I said, you know, I told my husband, like, I have to get my master's. And I'm like, it's super easy because it's right down the road and they have an online program. So I reached out and jumped in.
Well, we're glad that you did, and you seem to have done some really great stuff since then. I love the picture that you sent me whenever I started this campaign. I asked everybody to write a testimonial about the program. I asked everybody for a photograph, and most people sent me either a mugshot. They might have sent me a picture of them holding a camera. You sent me a picture of you in a one of those swinging chairs that kind of hangs, and you are laid back in it, ankles crossed, eyes closed, just looking as content as can be. I'm going to have to throw it up on the video portion of this
Oh no.
podcast. I love it. I saw that. I was like, that looks like a happy person. Tell us what you've been doing since you got your degree then, because you're no longer at Western Missouri Medical Center. You've done
Right.
a couple things since then, and I really want to dig into what you're doing right now because it's really great work.
Thank you. Well, I once I earned my degree, I felt like that gave me the competitive advantage to really um, go from that director level up to the vice president level. And so I was fortunate enough to, you know, over these years have networked and that type of thing. And so I work right now as the vice president of marketing for Down syndrome innovations. And what I was recruited on to do by the CEO at the time was to rebrand Down Syndrome Guild as it was, and build out the program from scratch. It had been two organizations had merged. It was the Down Syndrome Guild, which was sort of the direct, you know, support organization for people with Down syndrome, and then there was First Downs for Down syndrome, which is the fundraising arm. You know, so the board is excellent group of people, very successful. Um, they decided it was time to merge the two, and then they hired the CEO, Jason Drummond at the time, who recruited me over to help with this, basically rebrand from, you know, Down Syndrome Guild as it was. So we developed the mission, vision, values, and we leaned into the services. So we looked across the country of what do we want to be when we grow up, and what's out there and what is not out there, and what can we do right here in the Midwest to be the best that we could be, and possibly be the organization that people will want to move here. You know, the Mayo Clinic of Mission, Kansas. You know, but it's for Down syndrome. And so that was back in 2019. We decided, you know, we leaned in, we said we're going to be the lifespan partner for people with Down syndrome, and we're going to focus on life-changing services. So that complement what they're receiving in education and healthcare. So we're going to be that group that helps them develop those social and independent living skills, the employment skills that they will need, starting with supporting the families at prenatal diagnosis to, you know, little kiddos all the way up to teens and adults. Um, and so we really leaned into that. 2020 happened, and we were fortunate enough to our service team, our vice president of lifespan services, who's now our executive director, Sarah Mai, she went home and built out, all right, this is what we're going to do from when the parents find out they're going to have a baby with Down syndrome, all the way to what are we going to do for teens and adults to make sure that they can live as independently as possible, and live a fulfilling life with a career and contributing to their community. And so, while she was developing all that out, I was leading the rebrand with our executive team and our board. And here we are 5 years later, and we're at capacity for all of our services. We've expanded, we built a new building so that we could serve more people. And we do have people actually moving here from other parts of the country so that they can receive our lifespan services, which is uncommon across the country.
Well, that's just beautiful. I have a nephew with special needs, and so those of you who are working with people with special needs, you have a special place in my heart, and I can't thank you enough for all that you're doing there. I
Thank
do have
you.
to ask, you hear about kids who maybe they had an injury when they were a child, and it led them to want to be a pediatric surgeon, or somebody who had to have a lot of dental care, and that leads them to want to be a dentist. Did you have a family member or know somebody that you were close to that had Down syndrome, and that's what kind of got you and got engaged with it, or is it just you recognize this is a special group that has some special needs that needs a little extra, and I want to be a part of that?
So there's a twofold answer to that. One is nonprofit has been where I spent the entirety of my year, minus the first year and a half out of college. Um, and I felt like, my gift is, the strategy, the communications, the really understanding people and how to compel them um, to bring the organization and the person that needs that service together. So working in nonprofit, that's my heart. I want what I do when I reach my deathbed to be able to look back and say, hey, you know what? I took care of my family, my friends, but I also hopefully will be able to say that, something I did in my career was hopefully change somebody's life. So I had kind of gone through that career transition. When after I had my kids, when I was working at the hospital, and thought, this is really important time that I'm spending away from my family, and I really want it to be meaningful. And thus, that's what took me also to get my master's was, I wanted to broaden my knowledge and really dig into the theories behind, communication. And one of the courses I took was about, representation in the media, and um, a lot of that information was very staggering for me to understand, and that sort of pivoted me to make sure that everything that we put out has adequate representation of not only background and gender, but abilities too. So,
Hmm.
so that's one portion of it. But the other is my husband is an educator. He spent the bulk of his career as a special ed teacher, and so he's the better half. If anybody knows both of us, he's the better half in this marriage. And he inspires me every day, with the work that he was doing. And it really made me reflect on, all right, what am I doing, to help greater good. And so um, having experience, watching him, and then he, has gone into administration to be a principal, but he still has that gift with every student, no matter who they are. So that was a part of it. But then also, as I got older, I have a brother. My oldest brother has a daughter with cerebral palsy. And then my middle brother has a son with autism. So both of my brothers have a child with special needs. And so not Down syndrome, but to me, you know, they love what I'm doing, and they, oftentimes say, "Oh, wow, we wish we had something like that lifespan for us." And um, so at least I feel like putting out a positive ripple in the world that reaches a group that is, fairly underrepresented and underserved, I would say.
Well, I mean, if your husband is the better half, knowing you, knowing how awesome you are and the work you're doing, he must be somebody really, really incredible. So,
He really is. He is. Thank
what
you.
is it? What is it that drives you? Because I can imagine that, like you said, you're working for a group that's underrepresented. You're working in not-for-profit where the funds aren't always there. You've got to have something that keeps you motivated, something that becomes your why. What is that for Vanessa Figg?
That's a great question. Um, I think it stems back into I feel like I get up every day in my career. When I was younger and building out my resume, it was all about me. It was like, all right, what I'm always raising my hand, in the meetings of who wants to take on this project. It was always me, wanting to build out my resume and get all this experience and do all this cool stuff so I could move up the ladder. And then I hit that period, that in my late 20s, early 30s, where I thought, I had my own children and I was like, okay, what am I really doing though? And so what drives me is knowing that I need to get up every single day and do my best, so that what I bring to the office, we have part-time staff that have Down syndrome who are administrative assistants, and some of them teach some of our like programs, or they assist with them.
Excellent.
And
That's awesome.
it's literally it's so fulfilling, the mission of just being to work alongside our awesome team that includes people with diverse abilities and or different abilities. And we I feel blessed to be able to get up every day, and the puzzle of the communication and the audience and all the different services that we provide, that puzzle of what's the best, most effective way to communicate, to get through to these, families, and really connect them into the services that are going to benefit them the best. So I see it as a puzzle, but what drives me is, if I don't bring my best, then I'm not helping, I'm not supporting them, I'm not connecting them into what do they need to live their best lives. So it's getting up every day, and to be able to serve the mission, that I'm so blessed to be a part of.
Well, and you talked about that it used to be all about you. You're trying, and I think that's probably true of most people, is when they graduate and they're working on that resume, they're trying to puff up that resume, trying to get as many experiences as they can so they can climb the ladder,
Right.
so they can make a difference, so they can do something meaningful with their lives. You're there, but what's next? Are you content where you are, like your picture shows, or are you still looking to say, okay, now what more can I do? How much higher can I climb that I can affect more?
Yeah, that was a great question. Like I said, I'm a lifelong learner. And so what I've built out here at Down Syndrome Innovations is a pretty well-oiled machine now. And it was kind of that way when I left the hospital. It was it was an uphill, grudging, deep trek of building something from scratch. And truly, I was honored to be able to do it. And I made mistakes and I learned from them. And but I was surrounded, I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by such great professionals, and executives that are, have far more experience than I do and help mentor me. And um, I think really my niche is going into those organizations that, kind of have things all over, or they're not very, maybe they don't even have a full-time, communications person, and they need that built out from scratch. I think that's sort of I fancy myself, a communications architect and builder. So I come in, here's the goals that they're trying to reach, or here's the challenges, a little mix of both. I'm the architect, I put together the plan forward, and then I also help build that out. So then we build this beautiful house that has all the rooms built out, but then we can hire on, some younger professionals who can then design and, decorate each room the way it needs to be, and then take it, forward. And then I move on to the next house. So yeah, I don't think this is my last stop, on my in my career path. But it would take something truly special to draw me away. But I'm again always looking to learn and also, impact. I feel like I'm at least leaving each organization, where I work, a little bit better than they were when I arrived.
Well, as a lifelong learner, have you ever thought about the PhD and coming back and teaching in college?
Funny that you said that. That was part of the reason why I was somebody said when I was getting my master's there, they said, "Oh, well, if you get over 3.0 or 3.5, you could enroll in the cohort with Mizzou to get your EDD or something like
Yeah, we don't
that."
have that anymore.
Oh, you don't have that anymore.
No.
Well, but I did think about, it'd be kind of cool to do something at the university level. Yeah, so I did that door's open because I did at least I definitely got over a 3.5. So, but you never know, maybe.
And it is amazing what that master's degree opens for you because if you didn't have the master's degree, well, think about going for the PhD. That's, you got a step to get to for there. And with that master's degree, working at a college or a university or, that sort of an environment, those doors are open where you can continue making an impact. So, well,
Exactly.
in the meantime, until you decide or you figure out, well, if that next thing happens to be, keep doing what you're doing there because again, you're impacting a underrepresented group that is a special group that needs all the love it can get. And I love that you have people with Downs that are working there that are sharing their unique gifts. So that's great stuff.
Thank you.
Last question I have for you is we have students here now that are trying to think what's next for them. Where are they going from here? What advice would you have for them? And then what advice would you have for somebody who has graduated and they're thinking about coming back for their master's degree?
So for the current students, I would say take advantage of the incredible resources that you have within your professors and um, the networking that you have with alumni. Communications, as you see the world evolve, it's sort of now more acceptable to be writing, texting in code and emails with BRB or TY, like thank you. And I feel like communications could be something that's a lost art, like cursive writing, cursive
Yeah.
handwriting. So something that I have seen throughout my career, being a great communicator is something that distinguishes you from everybody else. And so whether you want to be a CEO, whether you are going to be an engineer, whatever it is that you are looking at your path, if you're not a good writer or not a good communicator, you don't know how to present, you don't know how to put together, a strategy, an idea, or a summary of what it is you're trying to accomplish, you're going to be behind. And so, um, the thing that blew my mind was how incredibly supportive every professor including you, Dr. Moore, you were one of my professors, how just incredibly supportive and helpful. And it felt like I was the only student they had because I would send a question or an email, or I'd say, oh, whatever challenge I was running into. And I mean, it was just like every single professor would just like stop their doing. They would get with, whether it was an email or get on a Zoom or, chat room, those types of things. I've never felt more supported by anybody. And so I feel like if anybody's ever thinking about going to a college for anything, but specifically communications, I can attest to. I mean, seriously, I would remark to my husband, I just like, oh my gosh, I've never felt something like this. And it was almost, they believed in me so much that I wanted to do really well, because they were giving so much to me and I didn't want to let anybody down. So, really lean into the incredible faculty, at UCM and, um, and don't cut corners. Really, truly enjoy, lean into, um, the work that you're doing and the things that you're learning because if you know that really well going out into on your whatever career path you choose, you're going to be one of a few out there in any organization. And so um, take advantage of that, I would say for sure. Um, for the master's group, especially the non-traditional, um, everybody thought I was crazy because I had two little kids. So it was 2016. So I had let's see, 2016. So I had a 5-year-old and let's see, 2016, 5-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
having to do
Five
mom
year
math.
Yes, I don't remember. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot, but I had two littles under the age of 5,
Yep.
and working a full-time job. And my husband also working a full-time job. And so, um, the idea of it was pretty daunting of how am I going to manage all of this, make the time, and it was doable. It was, it was, for me, it was just kind of compartmentalizing when am I going to do the work, and then, the husband being like, all right, either the kids are sleeping, everybody's sleeping, and that's when you get your work done, or it's like a Saturday or Sunday, and they go do something special, and I got the work done. Um, but I feel like that being a non-traditional student and having been in the communications industry for, I don't know, it was close to 15 years, probably more. I totally nerded out. It was the coolest experience to be able to learn about the theories, these communication theories and things that I had been seeing, trends, what was effective and what we were trying to do and what wasn't effective. And then actually in the textbook and having the professors pull out the specific things and being like, oh my God, there's a theory behind that. And then that actually, the light bulb going off and then being able to look deeper into it and then say, okay, well, now I know this and I'll stop doing this and I'll do more of this. And if I want this outcome, I can lean into here. And um, I think the hardest thing for me in the beginning was wanting to read every chapter and every page like really slowly and just absorb it all. And I had interns and other younger people being like, well, you can go back and read it after, but you got to get the work done first. And I'm like, okay, all right. But truly how the the schoolwork benefited me was it really it brought together the things that I'd already had seen, but with an uneducated eye, I didn't know what it was. And then it actually helped me be more effective in my job and moving forward, all the things that I had learned from the schoolwork. So I would say, and if I had to go back, if I know a lot of people do their master's right after they graduate, which works well too, because there's a lot of pros for that. But I would say, if you're a professional and you've been out a little while and it's a really, really cool experience to go back in um, and really learn and have it help take me to my next level of, you know, being a better professional. So
Yeah.
that was kind of the best part, I think.
Yeah, that was my PhD experience because I did the master's right after my bachelor's, but then 15 years later, I went back and worked on my PhD. And like you're saying, we'd talk about these theories or talk about techniques or whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been doing that's what that's called. So that's why we
Yes.
did that. Okay. I should have
Yeah.
been, oh man, I should have been doing it this way. Okay, I gotta make that's the value of lifelong learning is
Yeah.
you continue professional development, you continue going back, you continue growing and learning and things. So, Vanessa, you're a great representative of that. Thank you so much for being on today. Thank you for what you're doing in that Down syndrome community and the great work and just keep on doing what you're doing. We're proud of you and we're glad to consider you part of Mules Nation.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for the education, the amazing education that I received at UCM and specifically from your class, Dr. Moore. I really enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad it certainly has paid off. And thanks all of you for tuning in today. Remember, you can catch every episode on our YouTube channel through the UCM Media Network. That's youtube.com/UCMMN. You can also listen on Spotify. Special thanks to Jake Mager, as always, for creating our theme music. Again, this is Dr. Joe Moore reminding you, you can get there from here. Have a great day.